Okay, everyone, how are we? How are we doing? Because this week has been a rough one, just in the K-pop world, but also in general in life. So, really did not need this to happen this week, but it has. If you couldn't tell, I'm going to be talking about the recent news of Enhypen being in front of my walls because, yeah, it's just weird. I would be wearing my Enhypen shirt right now, but it's currently being tumbled in the dryer right now. So I am wearing this instead. Yeah, how are we, first of all? How are we doing? Because I was a mess this week. Obviously, if you don't know, earlier this week, B-Lift has announced that Heeseung of Enhypen has been taken out of the group to pursue a solo career. Had they just said that, I feel like there wouldn't be as much of an uproar. Had it just been it was his decision to do this, it may have been a little easier to handle. And I've looked at the messages and I've read them, like both Heeseung's and B-Lift's, and they just don't match, which is, I also think, is another reason why people are so riled up. And also, I just want to, if you're feeling the way you're feeling, like if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling mad, if you are feeling like confused, all of that is well and valid. There's been a lot of people who have been like pushing down people of feeling this way. And that's really unfortunate because multiple groups go through a lot of different things and people have their feelings on what goes on with those groups. But for some reason, there's just been a lot of like, oh my gosh, you're being so dramatic. Like, you don't need to be like this. But if you're an Enhypen stan and if you know the past with Heeseung and how he was brought to this group, essentially, like, it's a lot to handle. And I have been, just a little bit of my own history, I've been a stan of them probably like late 2020, 2021. My friend was watching Island live and she was voting, and I lived with her while this was happening. But at that time I was getting into BTS and TXT, so I really knew nothing about this group. But she was watching it and I was aware of who they were because of her. And then I didn't really get into them until later. And then I saw them at the first time they were at KCON. And that's kind of when I dove more into their music and I grew to love their music. So that's kind of my background with them. Initially, I was definitely more of like a casual listener, but seeing them live, I've grown to love them. And then I started like watching their content after KCON, also with a lot of groups because I saw a lot of groups during that KCON. And that's kind of really how I dug deeper into K-pop, because before I was just into a couple of groups, BTS and TXT. So they are definitely like one of my top groups, especially within the last couple of years. I've been like, since Dark Blood actually is when I really was like, okay, yeah, I like them a lot. And I've seen them 3 times now. I've seen them, or technically 4th if you count KCON. So, and this was 2021 KCON or 2022. I cannot remember, but it was the one Stray Kids and ATs were there. I think ITZY was there. There was a lot of people there. Enhypen, and they were like babies back then. But yeah, so I've seen them at KCON, and then I've also seen them in Dallas for their Fate tour. And then I also saw them for the Fate Plus tour in Oakland, and I saw them this past tour, Walk the Line, in LA. So I've seen them quite a bit. Like, I've seen them a lot of times. And they're definitely one of my top groups in terms of performances, in terms of music. I really like their vibes. I like their storyline of being vampires. Like, that's really cool to me. So I've really grown to really, really love them and appreciate them as artists. So when this news broke, I was in shock. If I'm going to be honest, I was in shock. I was in denial. I just didn't know what to think or what to feel. So I was in that phase like the first day. And then obviously my timeline got flooded with Engene, and which is especially threads. Threads was a lot. There was just a lot circling around. There was a lot of rumors being spread. There were a lot of conspiracy theories, and it was just overwhelming. So I shut off for the night, and then the next day I was like very, very sad. And it was like funny to me because I've never really reacted this way to someone leaving a group. Obviously, I like upset initially when someone leaves a group. Like was very upset about Manal and Cat's Eye, still am. Danielle and New Jeans, very upset. And even with Western artists, like when The Wanted disbanded, I was very upset. Very, very upset. They were a group that I loved. And same like with Jonas Brothers. Obviously, they came back. But when they first disbanded, I was like, they were just, yeah, that was a lot. So I feel like I haven't felt this way about someone leaving a group, like in this state, in a very long time. And again, everyone's feelings are valid. People can react however they want. So yeah, I was very sad. And it's mostly because just of the general mistreatment of artists in general in K-pop. I feel like a lot of people don't understand how strict K-pop is and how much a contract means in K-pop. I feel like I heard a lot of stuff about like why are Enhypen, still going to Australia? Why are they still, a group? Like it's either Heeseung or none of them, which is also unfair to the other members who are in the group because again, they are also under a contract. And there was a lot of stuff about, well, how is he still in B-Lift if he's just going on a solo career? Like that's just weird. Yes, that is weird because he's going to be at B-Lift with Enhypen in the building and he still has to go about his duties. And that's unfortunately all under contract. So like he can't just go up and leave the company because that would cost millions and millions of dollars, however much he is worth as an individual and as a group member. That was the whole issue with Danielle. Like she couldn't just leave the group or the company, and there was a lot of pushback because she wanted to leave, but she was going to be in millions and millions of dollars of debt. So it was very hard for her to get out of this group. And then she was eventually forced out. There's just a lot of like forcing out in K-pop. And that's one thing I really hate about this style of music, and because they really just don't care about the artist whatsoever. They do not care. And it's quite unfortunate because they are very much like you're either with the group or you're not. At least that's how B-Lift is. And that's how I saw it when I read these messages, because from the messages, it sounded like the company suggested that it might be better if you are not a part of the group if you want to have a solo career. That just didn't sit well with me because there have been so many instances of other groups going solo or, members doing their own solo music. BTS, even though they were technically on a break from like BTS stuff, like they each were able to do their own couple of solo albums and go on their own solo tours and then still come back as BTS. And then we also have Yeonjun of TXT. Flawless album, completely different vibe from TXT, and still topped the charts. And very successful album in terms of sales and all that. NCT, we have Mark, we have Haechan, still a part of NCT, still were able to do a solo. I was trying to explain this to people who are like outside of K-pop and they really didn't understand. But that's because they're not really fully into, they don't really know all the ins and outs of K-pop. So to the outside eyes, it's like, oh, okay, he's going solo. A lot of artists have done this. Zayn, to name a few, all of NSYNC, because Justin Timberlake became a star. Like, that's very normal in Western music, not so much K-pop. It was very hard to like explain this to people because we were just like, why couldn't he still be a part of the group and do his solo stuff? And one thing that bugged me was that they were saying it's because his style was going to be so vastly different than Enhypen, but obviously because he's doing his own individual solo stuff, like he has different tastes in music than what maybe Enhypen has to offer. And so have all the other solo albums of other groups that we've had have been very different from the groups that they're a part of, because everyone has their own individualistic style. So it's just all very just, none of it made sense. I don't know what there is to do at this point, if there's anything to do. Obviously, if you want to boycott, go ahead and boycott. If you want to protest, go ahead and protest. But I personally am not going to do that. I didn't do that with Rise. Different situation, but I love Rise as a group. And no matter what I say, no matter what I do, like, the company is always going to stand by their decision, which I feel like is going to be the same thing in regards to this. I also think there's a lot more important things going on in the world that need more attention. Yes, I'm mad. Yes, I'm upset, in shock, all of that. I can very well be, but I don't really involve myself in protests or boycotts in terms of this world in the K-pop lens, only because I know that these members are under contracts, and unfortunately they still have to go about their daily duties. They still have to go to Australia. They still have to be Enhypen, and it's messed up, but there's not much we can do about it. This is just ramblings. Sorry. So I'm gonna, go back, and I have no notes. I'm just going off how I'm feeling. But whenever something like this happens, there are always two sides of the coin, and they really throw punches at each other. So there are the people that are like, hey, this isn't right. We don't understand this. He should be able to come back. Then there's the other side of the coin where they're like, Enhypen is 6. Same thing happened with Rise. What I don't like about that is the harsh words towards each. Like, there's a lot of meanness in this whenever something like this happens, and it's really not okay. Again, we all have our own beliefs. We all have our own thoughts on how we feel these things. So just the hurtful words that I've been seeing and just the dramatization of a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is a lot, and it's unnecessary. I think what matters the most is that these K-pop idols need to be seen more as human beings. They do not need to be put on this pedestal and this pressure that they always have to be just at the group's best interest. And I don't know what Heeseung is feeling. I don't know what he's singing. Obviously, what they're going through is very traumatic, and clearly something is happening, because the way those boys looked at that airport in Australia, yeah, that was a lot. But B-Lift has also been known of the mistreatment of artists, and also hurting other artists and other groups that aren't even involved in B-Lift. They're just going to beat to their own drum. It sucks, but that's what they're going to do. They are a greedy monopoly of a company. Same with Hype, same with all the other groups, all the other little companies within Hype. So it's just a very weird, precarious situation. Like I said, I'm not going to be a part of the boycott. I'm not going to be a part of protests. I'm not going to sign petitions, because again, I think there's more important stuff to be putting that effort towards. All I can do is hope that B-Lift decides to listen to the artist instead of their own beliefs, but obviously in the past that has not been the case. So yeah, it's just been a very weird emotional week. And then Friday happened, and Friday was Freaky Friday the 13th. So I'm just, my mind's a mess. But yeah, one thing I also don't love about when this stuff arises, when this stuff happens, is the fact that Engene, or this happens to another group, whatever fandom, this happens to is that they bring in other fandoms, other artists into this drama when that does not need to happen. So I saw a post of this happening to a couple of groups. P1 Harmony, they just had a comeback, and I guess people have been flooding all the stuff that's been going on with Enhypen and Engene, which is kind of selfish in a way because, again, those groups are under contract. They're dealing with their own promotions right now. They just had an album come out. They also probably can't say anything about this stuff. So it's without being punished. Like, I mean, that sounds cruel, but that has happened in the past. So I'm sure they are feeling things, but they cannot say anything at risk of their own career and their own comeback. So I don't think we need to be putting other artists and other fandoms into this. If they empathize with us, like if the fandoms empathize with us, they understand us, that's all that needs to happen. That's all that can happen. It's not fair to put other artists responsible for a company that they have no involvement in. That's what I have to say about that. I didn't mean for this to be so long. Hopefully with my editing, it will be a little less. But I just wanted to kind of ramble, kind of rant as in Engene my thoughts on this because it's been a lot. And I always empathize with the artists involved in the group as well. And oh, that was another thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know if I talked about this, but I've also seen a lot of people kind of talk badly to the other members, kind of forcing them to say stuff, which they, again, probably cannot. As much as they want to, they probably cannot say anything. Like, I saw someone post something about, like, they need to do a live of like what's happening, and it's like those lives are monitored. As much as they probably want to, they can't. And as we can see, it is eating at them not being able to speak out because Heeseung is the oldest member of this group. He is the older brother. He is, a lot with this group. I also don't like the idea that people are saying like Enhypen or Heeseung or nothing. Because again, the other members are also people. They are also all very talented in their own way. While I think Heeseung was a very important part of this group. He's in the center a lot. He does a lot of the ad-libs. Honestly, Island was made for him to find his members because he didn't get into TXT, so this was his shining moment. But everyone else has their spot, has their role in this group. They are all very talented in their own way. And that's why they don't have, individual roles in this group. So to put the other members down, I don't love that. So yeah, let's just, like I said, I keep mentioning this. We can all have our own feelings about this. But I don't think bringing down others, being mean to other fandoms, same with other fandoms being mean to us, none of that is necessary. None of that matters because what really matters is the artists themselves, their health. That's what we need to put our focus and our energy on and not all the noise. And it's hard to do that because there is so much noise. I get it. There's also all this stuff about like someone who knows people in B-Lift who works at B-Lift and are trying to say like what happened in that meeting. It's hard for me to listen to those because as someone who has worked in the different side of the entertainment industry, I've had to sign NDAs myself. So there's stuff that I can say, there's stuff that I can't say. So it's really hard for me to believe that and to believe that because like they could be fired. So if they do say that, even if it is anonymous, these are multi-billion-dollar companies or million. I don't know. I really don't know how much B-Lift is worth, but they can dig into computer, like they have the ability to like find out if this is a person within the company and then fire them. So it's really, really hard for me to believe noise like that. So I'm trying not to, but all this goes down to is the artists themselves, and hopefully in the future something changes and the artists themselves are actually treated as human beings and are actually listened to. That's really all I can hope for. So, yeah, sorry about this rambling, but I just wanted to give my thoughts as a lot of you guys watch a lot of my Enhypen reactions. So, I just wanted to share you how I've been feeling about this. It's been, again, like I never expected to feel this way about a person in a group leaving, but because there's so much gray area, it's just is like hard to understand. I will see you all for the next video. I feel like it's weird to end this on like, if you want to subscribe, blah, 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 like I always do. So I'll just see you in the next video. Bye.